Hi guys, this is Mrs. Shivo, and I am sharing with you guys a lesson that I did in class. That way, if you were absent or you just want to watch it over and over again because you're weird like that, here it is for you. So in class the last couple of days, I've been talking about symbolism. And this is one of those things that your English teachers are going to talk to you about over and over again in high school. So I want to make sure that you're comfortable with finding symbols and talking about them in your writing, which is one of those things that we are going to be doing in the coming weeks as we dive into your dystopian book club books, or if you're in an academic class, in your copy of The Giver. So we see symbols in our everyday life, like all the flipping time. You guys are, I think, familiar with both of these symbols for FedEx and for Amazon. I know Amazon basically runs my life. You may or may not be able to see the hidden symbols within them. So for instance, in the FedEx logo, can you see the arrow here going from the E to the X? And think about, why would a shipping company want an arrow in its logo? Yeah, because they get your stuff from one place to another. And that is kind of, implicit in the subtext of this symbol. And that's what symbolism is really all about. It is when you use one thing to imply another. It is a type of metaphor, really. So let's take a look at the Amazon logo. What do they have on Amazon.com? Well, they have everything from A to Z. And when you get the thing that you order from Amazon, how are you going to feel? Happy. Exactly. So that's all right there for you in the logo. All of the things that you need to know about their company is there. And literature works the same way. The writer provides an image. Sometimes it's a physical object, sometimes it's a person, sometimes it's something else. And that image takes the place of something. So a symbol is when one thing takes the place of another, like an object for an idea. I wear a symbol almost every day. I actually forgot to put it on this morning, and now I feel weird. But you guys know I am Mrs. Shivo. So I wear a symbol around my left finger, a ring, which is a symbol of my marriage. There's symbolism in Finding Nemo. So those of you guys who've seen Finding Nemo, remember that a very bad thing happens to Nemo at the beginning of the story. A barracuda brutally murders his mom and all of his brothers and sisters. And this means that Nemo is a little bit different because his egg gets cracked. And so he has a lucky fin. This lucky fin reminds people that the very bad thing happened in the beginning of the movie. And that's important to know because it affects his relationship with his dad. His dad is really overprotective. He doesn't want to lose Nemo. And every time his dad sees Nemo's lucky fin, he's reminded of the bad thing that happened. Now, we can't over and over again say in the movie, hey, remember when Nemo's mom and all his brothers and sisters were brutally murdered by a barracuda? Because Finding Nemo is a movie for kids, and they don't like that so much. Also, it is a physical barrier that Nemo has to work past. You'll remember when he's stuck in the tank and he's struggling. He has to get up the filter and put the rock in there. He says, I can't do it. I can't do it. I have a little fin. And he has to work past that. And that's a really good message for kids watching the movie. We have to work past our adversity in order to come out on top. When we find a symbol like that, it helps us to figure out the theme. So symbols are keys to theme. There is a special kind of symbolism called an illusion. There is an illusion in the cover for the book Twilight. Now, this is the original cover. It's not like the movie cover, so there's no, whatever that guy's name is. He was Cedric. There's none of them on there. It's just what the author, or rather the publisher, originally intended. So we see on this cover, it's really simple. The main feature is this apple. And we talked about this in class. I asked you guys, where do we see apples in literature? And invariably people go, the supermarket, and then I have to struggle not to hit you. I would never hit my students. But really, in literature, you see them all over the place. In fairy tales, we have Snow White. We have that Greek mythology. We have the apple of discord. We have an apple that is super important in The Giver. You give apples to teachers. So we have apples a lot in our culture. There is one story where they are very, very prominently featured. And that's the story of Adam and Eve. Now, I talk about the story of Adam and Eve not because I think you should, believe it as your spiritual text or not believe it as your spiritual text, but just as a text that a lot of people in our culture are familiar with. So in this story, if you're not familiar with it, Adam and Eve are in a perfect garden. They have everything they want. There is one special rule. They are not allowed to eat the fruit of the tree of life or the tree of knowledge. Now, yes, every year someone points out to me, well, biblical scholars now say that they aren't blah, blah, As a culture, we commonly refer to those fruits as apples. Commonly. That's just what we have decided. Biblical scholars may disagree. That's not where I'm at with this. As a culture, we have decided that they are apples. So in literature, when an apple shows up, it is almost never by accident. And the apples come from the tree of knowledge. So hence, apples being associated with teachers. These apples from the tree are forbidden fruit. So if we think back to the story of Twilight, about a girl falling in love with a vampire, is it a good idea for her to date the vampire? No, he will bite her and that will be murder time. So this vampire is forbidden fruit to her. And of course, when you tell a teenager not to do a thing, what do they immediately want to do? The thing, exactly. So that's the symbolism there on the cover of Twilight. This is called an allusion. And I asked you guys just to write down this middle part for your notes. An allusion is a reference to a famous historical moment, piece of art, piece of literature, or something famous within our culture. If you need to, go ahead and pause the video here so that you can have time to write that down. If I compare my friend breaking into his sibling's room as storming the beaches with D-Day, or if a teacher tells you that quitting a sport is like two paths that diverge in a wood, like that Robert Frost poem, they're making an allusion. If I say, I think I in my 8th class, I chose Aiden. Aiden's outfit is so fetch today. I am making an allusion to Mean Girls. Now, of course, you can still exist in my class and not pick up on all my weird allusions that I have. That's totally fine. But they're just another way that you can pick things up. If an author is alluding to a piece of literature throughout their writing, then we know that that piece of literature is pretty important to the writing. And if we want to fully understand it, we should maybe read the thing. The more you learn, the more you read, the more allusions you will get. We talked about the Hunger Games. I'm not going to go into it here because we have book club groups reading the Hunger Games, but think about the Mockingjay pen and how it serves as a symbol within the book. We also talked a little bit about Divergent. Again, we have some students reading Divergent as their book club book, so I'm not going to go into that. If you want, you can go to my class website to download this, slideshow, and then you can click this link. It's a really cool video where Ansel Elgort explains the symbolism of the different factions. We talked about concrete poetry and how poets will use the way poems look in order to make a point. And then we talked about Emily Dickinson because when in doubt, a lot of symbolism is about death. If you have any questions, please come see me in my classroom. That's A6, or shoot me an email, sarah.shivo@lcps.org. Thanks for listening, guys. I hit the wrong button. So stopped